New guy who defends human trafficking has dropped, and you're gonna love it. You're gonna absolutely adore it. So the guy tried to contest the evidence. The last one didn't, and it's an excellent opportunity to show just how incredibly dumb their defenses of the evidence against Beau, aka the human trafficker, are. It's just this random Brexit geezer. You know, he's from Britain. He doesn't brush his teeth, just like me. He eats smack bum pee wet, and he makes it all happen in the Fortress of Dreams. What else is there to say? Let's check out what kind of amazing defenses he has for the evidence against Beau of the fifth column. Oh, he also watches 30 seconds of a video and then goes and watches another video about hamburgers for 20 minutes and then comes back. So, you can really tell why this guy doesn't have many actual viewers. And he tries to claim that forced labor and human trafficking, they're just drama. It's just drama. Just a little bit of drama. Just do some human trafficking. It's just a little bit of drama about human trafficking, The Gulf states, they're just doing drama. I don't know why you guys are bringing up Qatar, enslaving migrant workers on, incredibly coercive labor contracts. Just a little bit of drama. Come on. Get out of here with that drama, man. Well, howdy there, internet people. It's Beau again. Today I just want to let you all know place the fucking video in the middle of the screen. That I was the ringleader of a forced labor and human trafficking operation in Florida from 2005 to 2007. Our operation promised young and vulnerable Eastern European women from ages 19 to 23 the opportunity to work in the United States. We lied to them, telling them that they were receiving visas for working at one specific hotel for a specific period of time, so they believed that their papers were legitimate. But when they arrived, we took full control of their lives and forced them to work for our labor contracting business at whichever hotel paid us the most, making them unknowingly complicit in immigration fraud. We forced them to pay us massively inflated costs for things like visa applications, transportation, and job placements, which we garnished from their
Say anything, buddy?
wages. One of our victims testified in court that we made her pay $1,145 for a visa renewal to allow her to keep working for us.
Is that a thing that he specifically did?
Yes, it is. Is he going to go and look at the source to confirm that it is? Or is he just going to imply that hey, you never know, right? Maybe he did do it, maybe he didn't. But because you specifically avoid the source that shows that he did, I guess you can just say that he didn't. Watch.
Is that literally a thing that he specifically did?
Yes, and it's about to be demonstrated.
Not sure about that one, friend.
You're just not sure about it. Why don't you check the source? Not going to.
I have a funny railway story in the meantime. Navigator, I'm all for that. Allegedly, after the Channel Tunnel opened, an English train driver...
He just randomly starts talking about something else. Hold on. There must be a point where he actually gets to talking about the thing that's literally on his screen. He just cast out on it without actually checking the evidence and then starts talking about something else. Let's see if he gets back to the actual topic.
I think we should go back to burning children as fuel for trains.
What?
Check. Bernardo's ideas are genocide is okay as long as my side's doing it. So, he's a bad person.
Let's say that's even true. Who is worse? Someone who thinks that genocide is okay, but who has no power or means to even remotely carry it out? Or someone who human trafficked hundreds upon hundreds of Eastern European women and enslaved them? I've skipped ahead 2 minutes. He hasn't actually talked about the evidence yet.
And so he's just going to attack Beau from the fifth column because,
Because,
why not, I guess?
Because he's a human trafficker. Because he human trafficked hundreds upon hundreds of 19 to 23 Bulgarian women. That's why. Just a little human trafficking. Come on. Everyone does a little bit of human trafficking in their life, right?
Clout, that sort of thing.
Maybe I'm against human trafficking. Okay? There's no clout in going against someone like this. The clout is in sucking up to people like this who have lots of subscribers. The clout is in collaborating with them. If I wanted clout, I would be sucking up to all the people that you love, all the big streamers that you love. I wouldn't be going against them. Because how you get clout is you join up with these people and you never say anything bad about them ever, and you try to agree with them on everything, even if you disagree with them. That's how you get clout. You've got it the complete fucking opposite. Holy shit. It's like saying someone is a communist because they want clout. No, that's not how you get clout. You get clout by siding with liberalism, by saying what the people with money and power want you to say. It's the exact same on YouTube. But is he going to deal with the evidence, or are you just going to go off on a random tangent? These people love to say ad hominem, ad hominem. This is actual ad hominem. Is he
No,
like,
how long it wasn't noped out. Yeah,
you
that's
tired,
fair
buddy?
enough. Yeah.
You just got done walking down the stairs and you take a bit of a nap?
Now picture a cow with a pantograph. Yeah, that.
Holy shit, this is Streamer Prime. I thought it was Demon Mama who was Streamer Prime. This is Streamer Prime. This is the streamer. This is the absolute epitome of streamer. He forgot what he was talking about midway through talking about it, and now I don't even know what this is. We garnished $354 from her paycheck of a measly $600 in 1 week alone. We also had that same woman work for 80 hours in 1 week, and you can bet we did not pay her any overtime. We stuffed 15 to 20 young women from poor Eastern European countries into crowded apartments and forced them to pay us rent for the privilege. We ensured that they were completely independent.
When you keep saying we, I don't think there's any evidence to suggest that he was involved in the back end of this.
Are you going to look at the evidence, or are you just going to say that there isn't any, that you think? Is that the evidence? You don't need to actually look at the evidence to confirm whether that is true or not. And by the way, spoiler, he keeps watching the other videos on the topic where irrefutable evidence that he was literally the head of this entire operation and deeply, deeply involved in the forced labor aspect of it. He sees that and he changes his argument. Completely. He changes his argument from, I don't think he was involved in that part. I think all that he did was give visas to poor little refugees. And when he gets to the part where the evidence of him literally bragging about him being the regional manager of the operation multiple times, the evidence of him getting paid for the contracts, the evidence of him getting paid per hour worked, and the evidence of him literally physically going to multiple hotels and offering his forced laborers to them, then his narrative shifts from, I don't think he was involved with any of that, to, oh, come on, of course, he was the leader of a labor contracting business. He was the boss. Of course he went to hotels to offer his services. While just, conveniently leaving out the whole human trafficking and forced labor aspect now. So he adapts his argument on the fly to whatever dumb bullshit he can come up with in the moment to defend a human trafficker. Watch this. He's gonna throw in the Beau said they were refugees, so that means they were refugees thing that these people love to stick to.
He was just trying to get people from Eastern European countries into America for a better life, is his explanation of that. But there's no indication that this part of it had anything to do with Beau.
On the one hand, we have all of this evidence, tons and tons of documentary evidence, victim testimony, etc., showing that he was deeply involved in the administration of this operation. He was really the head honcho. In his own words, he was the regional manager. He was an incredibly important part of a human trafficking operation that very clearly was not just helping people come to America for a better life because they would go home after 6 months to a year. They were on temporary visas, okay? And a big part of the operation that helped it to work well is that they would go home, so they didn't bother to complain about it. On one side, we have him being the head of a human trafficking operation with tons of evidence for that. And on the other side, we have him saying that he was smuggling refugees with literally zero evidence. Well, clearly we have two stories here of equal quality, right? Clearly, these two stories are equally valid. We just need to treat them both as if they're equally valid, because once he said that he helped refugees without providing any evidence to that respect, nor did he do so during his trial, by the way. And then on the other side, we have all of the evidence for him being a knowing and willing human trafficker. Who can say which of these is really true or not, right? It's just he said, she said. That's all. That's the way that he wants to frame it while ignoring the evidence. He tried to say there was no evidence that he was involved in the things that I said he was. Well, what's this? It's a victim testimony, okay? One of the people who was conned into coming to Florida to work for Justin King and his human trafficking operation. One thing that these people don't seem to understand is that the way court cases work in every country that I know of is that the defense and the prosecution have an opportunity to enter evidence onto the record. And it's judged by the judge or the court clerks whether it's going to be admissible during the case or not. So when, the prosecution cites something, they are specifically citing an actually existing document. They're not just making shit up. This guy tries to claim that they're just making shit up when they're literally citing documentary evidence the whole time. As you can see is happening here. The prosecutor who is questioning the witness is constantly showing her government exhibits, documentary evidence of what happened. This is something that this guy doesn't understand, even though he's 40 years old somehow. You can see immediately here she's being questioned, and she says that her original visa was to work at the Bay Point Marriott. And then when she actually got to the USA, she was first taken by Eurohouse, aka the operation which Beau was the leader of in Florida, to the Sheraton 4 Point, a completely different hotel. So Beau literally immediately made her complicit in visa fraud because she had gotten the visa on the condition that she worked at one hotel, and when she arrived, they took her to another. They were contracting her out. She thought that she was going to be a direct employee of one hotel, and she was instead conned into being contracted labor for Eurohouse. Okay? And then the witness deeply implicates Justin King specifically, multiple times. Her first contact when she arrived was Justin King. And then Justin King is the one who organized the visa condition breaking work for her at the Sheraton 4 Point. Right here, she says, then I was told from Mr. King that I was going to work in Sheraton 4 Point. You can clearly see he was not just giving people visas. He was in charge of finding them places to work as well, which means he was clearly deeply implicated in the forced labor side of the operation as well. But it gets worse. The witness starts being questioned regarding her paychecks and stuff like that. So she worked for 6 months to a year or so, and then she was asked to renew her visa to keep working for them. She's asked, your visa was scheduled to end in November of 2005. Did anybody at Eurohouse offer to file some sort of extension? She says, I spoke with Mr. Justin King and I spoke with Stan. I forgot his name from Eurohouse. So I've been told they are offering an extension. I wanted to be loyal to my employer. I thought it was the right thing to do. How much did they say that they were going to charge you for the visa extension? They told me the extension is going to cost $1,154. She talked with Justin King, Mr. Justin King specifically, and someone else, Stan. She spoke to these two, and they told her this. So yes, he was deeply involved in this side of the operation, obviously. And she says right here, Justin King is the one who brought her the new agreement. Right fucking there. It was Justin King. Did he do that? Was he part of the we? Yes. Yes, he was. There's more. Justin King is the one who additionally brought her the seasonal employment agreement. He's the one who brought her fucking contract with that company. He came to her when she was working, brought her the contract, made her sign it. Literally us. It was Justin King who brought you this piece of documentary evidence. Yes, ma'am. Now, did Justin King actually follow through with this offer and apply for a visa extension for you? Yes, ma'am, he did. Did he ever tell you that he was applying for this visa extension? You weren't going to be able to work at the place that you were working. You know, at the place that was listed on the visa. She says no. Again, he followed a visa for her where he lied about what she was going to be working, the conditions of her work. He implicated this woman in visa fraud. Does that sound like someone helping refugees for them, like deeply incriminating someone, doing a federal crime in their name that they know nothing about, on top of the whole, making them pay literally 10 times the cost for a visa? She's asked directly, this is the extension of your visa that Mr. King got for you. You said you paid $1,154? She confirms, yes, ma'am, that's correct. Now let's continue to the part about the overtime. What about overtime? When you receive paychecks from Eurohouse, were you provided overtime or time and a half? She responds, no. So they broke up your paychecks and put 40 hours on one and one on the other. Yes, they were giving two separate checks. We were new in the country and I didn't know. They told me that's the way it has to be, and I was thinking that was normal. And you didn't know any better. Yes, clear labor exploitation. She's asked, do you recognize this government exhibit? Yes, that's my paychecks. Did you turn these paychecks over to the federal agents? Yes, I did. And then she's asked, this paycheck shows 48.7 hours at $8 an hour. It is for, one of them was for $629 total, with additional fees docked from her paycheck garnished for $354. What were those additional fees that she was having to pay? Those are withholding for the extension that was that she had to pay for. So Justin Eric King, clearly stated by her, is the one who negotiated with her contract renewal with their human trafficking company, and also the one who got her visa extension and then charged her for it. Very fucking clear. He garnished her paycheck for it, and he was the one who also handled her paychecks as well. Here, it says right here, who would give you your paychecks? Justin King and Lena, the secretary of Eurohouse. Do you see the individual that you knew as Justin King in the courtroom today? And she identifies him. So he's like, I don't think that he was involved in the forced labor side of the operation. You have right here one of his victims testifying in court, supported by a ton of documentary evidence, such as payslips, contracts, the fraudulent visa renewals that he filed on her behalf without her knowing, etc. He was very, very intimately involved. He was actually straight up scamming her. He was the one who was handling her payslips. He was the one who was splitting them in half to avoid paying her overtime, rather. He was the one who was overcharging her to the tune of $1,000 for a visa renewal and then docking her paycheck for it. By the way, a visa renewal costs $200. And it's not standard practice to make workers pay for it themselves. So that is incredibly fucked up just by itself. So he asked, I don't think he was involved in that side of the operation. Yeah, he was. And the source that I cited for him being involved in that side of the operation shows you right here that he was. I wonder why he didn't check it. There's two options here. And the first one is probably the truth. He's just very fucking dumb. Checking sources, things like that, analyzing sources is not a thing that occurs to him. I think that's just the case here. Or second, he knows that the source would go bad for him, but I don't think he's conscious enough, like he's sentient enough to really do that level of trickery. I think he's just very dumb. So his attempt to debunk like the first piece of evidence that showed up on the screen was clearly a swing and a miss. Like, I don't think that he was involved in that side of the operation. That was his defense. You don't think. I don't think that is evidence. I don't think that you don't think something is actual evidence. Whether he was involved in that side of the operation is something that you would decide by looking at the evidence, which I just literally disproved by looking at the fucking piece of evidence that I showed on the screen to back that up. Now, you could have checked the source, but I guess a true Brexit geezer doesn't check a source. A true Brexit geezer, he's bald, his face is extremely red, he speaks like a chav. He doesn't really think about these things. This is like pretty much unwatchable because the guy just doesn't actually respond to really anything. His response is to pause the video and then say, "Oh, bad empanada, me no like," or like, "I don't think that's true," when there's literally evidence on the screen that you would think he would at least think to like try to deal with before just saying that's not true. I mean, you just saw it, like his claim about Beau having smuggled refugees or something, when there's literally no evidence for that beyond Beau just saying it, and the evidence for him being a human trafficker is over fucking whelming. Let's see what the genius has to say.
This is just cringe, my dude.
This is just cringe, my dude? Am I watching a parody? Am I watching a fucking parody? Like, human trafficking debunked? How is it debunked? Through like a thorough assessment of the evidence, or just saying, like, this is like cringe, my dude? This is like cringe. Cringe, my dude. Gonna go have me a smack bomb pee-wet now. This is unbelievable. Like, yeah, this is a fan fucking with me. There's no way this is real.
Also, yeah, as pointed out in chat, these deepfakes are getting seriously good. Okay,
where does he actually deal with the evidence next? I think he doesn't actually talk about like anything. Like, basically, his entire argument here is, I don't think that's true when there's evidence on the screen showing him that it is true. And to be like, bad empanada, Stalinist genocide. Oh, an actual caveman. This is cringe, my dude.
You could almost imagine this was actually Beau saying it.
Depended on us, so they would have no choice but to keep working for us. We enforced all this with threats of violence, threats of fines, non-payment of wages, and verbal abuse, ensuring compliance from the people who we were exploiting in dozens of different ways. Our business was able to be competitive and profitable, specifically because we targeted vulnerable young women from poor countries, as we were able to offer the low bid on labor contracts from hotel companies because we paid them less than minimum wage. I submitted over 1,000 fraudulent visa applications for this.
Bad Empanada doesn't believe in restorative justice. Just like, Maria, and you've got to bear in mind, right, when you mention things like restorative justice,
it's so weird that these people invoke the concept of restorative justice pretty much exclusively to defend horrible people who have done horrible shit that they've never actually restored their victims for. That's what restorative justice means. The restorative part specifically refers to your victims. Did Justin Eric King help do anything for his victims? All that Justin Eric King did was get a sweetheart deal with the government for completely undisclosed and intentionally sealed reasons. He paid $0 in restitution to his victims. He actually got to keep some of the properties that he bought with a profit from their slavery. Don't worry, buddy, I can prove this. He's the exact opposite of restorative justice. Restorative justice is when you go to your victims and you come to like an accord with them on what you can do to restitute them, to restore them, to make them whole for what you have done to them. You admit what you have done. He's never done that. He's lied about it, actually. He's tried to frame himself as if he was like a fucking noble savior of refugees when he enslaved people. So he's never even admitted it. He's never even passed the first hurdle for restorative justice. And he's certainly never gone to his victims and apologized and been like, what can I do for you to help you and kind of negate the bad shit that I did to you? He's never done anything like that. In fact, as a part of this case, he actually didn't even have to pay restitution to his victims. He got off without paying a single cent of restitution. $0 in restitution. Let me show you. Summary. Criminal monetary penalties. He paid $700 to the court. $700. He was fined $0, and he was made to pay a whopping $0 in restitution to his hundreds upon hundreds of victims. Now that's what I call restorative justice right there. Not even admitting what you did, and doing literally nothing to help your victims. That's literally the opposite of restorative justice. No justice has been done here whatsoever. These people selectively invoke restorative justice specifically to try and excuse people for the horrible fucking shit that they've done that they've never even remotely done any restoration for. Well, at the same time, if you ask them, should Carl Rittenhouse have restorative justice? Do you think it was good that he didn't have to go to jail? Do you think it was good that he got off scot-free? They'd be like, of course not. He's so bad. Blah, 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 blah. But the victims of this human trafficker, apparently they don't deserve the same standard of justice. They are so selective. They only ever bring this concept up when it's time for them to apologize for someone who they like who did something terrible. There's been no restorative justice here. Nothing even remotely close to it. He hasn't even admitted what he did. How could he possibly have engaged in any restorative justice? Give me a fucking break. Caleb Maupin, he hasn't admitted what he did. But man, it was like a year ago, 2 years ago. Restorative justice, Caleb Maupin should face no consequences. Is that how this works? Of course you don't think that. Only when it's someone who you like do you bring this shit up. It's selective weaponization of something that you yourself don't actually believe in, and that the guy in question hasn't even done. So why even bringing it up? Is he gonna like deal with the fucking evidence or what?
Because he'd have to defend all manner of appalling shit. But he's basically a Stalinist in terms of his moral.
Isn't it? It's incredible how he literally cannot deal with the evidence. Just like, I'm Krug, Stalin. So anyway, the fun part of this is the clear so like he goes on like a tangent of like watching a canned hamburger video in the middle of this. He can't even pay attention to a 5-minute long video. It's insane. Here he gets back to the video. My release, after the feds gave me a long series of massive and incredibly generous breaks that they had absolutely no logical reason to give me.
Okay. Okay, you know what? We now know why he's saying this. Okay, so Beau of the Fifth Column, you're now saying, is literally a fifth columnist who was released out of jail early and given his properties back because he's now working as a Fed in the left.
What alternative explanation do you have? Why would the federal government give him such a light sentence when he was facing 65 years? Why would the federal government then return to him over $1 million in property that they had already seized from him, which he did not actually contest the seizure of in court? They had no reason to give that to him at all, unless they had struck a deal. What is your explanation for that? What is your explanation for him literally immediately getting out of prison and immediately trying to build a profile as an activist when he had absolutely no history as an activist beforehand? In fact, he was literally doing human trafficking. The only jobs that he's ever held in his life that we know of, he went straight from being a human trafficker to like trying to be a professional activist. Right after the government returned $1 million in property to him that they had no reason to return to him at all. Right after they let him out early on an already incredibly lax 3-year sentence on a possible 65 years. Buddy, what's your explanation? You can't just say, oh, he's saying this and I don't like it. You need to provide an actual reasonable alternative hypothesis, especially with the government just giving him his property back that they had already seized. It was property of the state. Why would they have given it back to him? They had literally no reason to do so. And also, why did they seal the reasoning for giving it back to him? That's another thing. They sealed the reasoning for giving him his properties back. Why would they seize these properties? Because they said that they were bought with the proceeds of human trafficking, and then just give them back and seal the reasoning for it. They had no reason to do that whatsoever unless they gave them back to him as part of a deal. What deal would that be? The federal government doesn't just give you back shit out of the goodness of their heart. Give me a fucking break. But he doesn't formulate an alternative thesis for this. He just complains that I'm saying it.
Online. Brilliant. That's fantastic. Literally everyone I don't like is a Fed. It's that.
No, I've literally said multiple times, I've argued multiple times that people who I don't like aren't Feds, they're just stupid. I have a video right here. You see that? They're not Feds. They're just dumb. The only time I've ever said that someone is a Fed with any seriousness is in this case, because we have incredible good reasoning to think that he is. It really is that simple. This guy is a dumb fuck. He doesn't know how to assess evidence. He's like, there's something, like his brain is leaking out of his ears and has been for a very long time. So he doesn't really have the ability to formulate some sort of argument against this. He can just be like, how dare you even say that?
Absolutely that. He's a fucking clown. He's an absolute fucking clown.
Is this the average British person? Is this what it's like to live in Britain? Just like people like this around every corner? That must be hell.
Yeah, he's a Fed. And clearly the Feds, their best way of doing that is just to have a guy doing general leftist lib arguments.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Channeling potential leftist energy into, for example, instead voting for the Democratic Party. Channeling potential leftist energy into, for example, instead supporting US geopolitical goals. That is exactly the sort of operation that feds have always done. Literally, that's what MK Ultra was all about. Sorry, not MK Ultra, COINTELPRO. It wasn't like about out and out like right-wing politics. It was about infiltrating leftist organizations and trying to de-radicalize them, to channel them towards electoral politics. Does this guy think that like the feds are really dumb, that like the FBI and CIA don't know how to use their assets well? Because they do. They know how to create someone who has plausible deniability, obviously. The guy's just a fucking dumbass. Like, he doesn't present any sort of alternative hypothesis. He can just point at my argument and be like, dumb. He can't actually refute it. Average Brit.
I don't know exactly how the feds think he's stopping the revolution or whatever, because that's not
He's explicitly against the revolution. He advocates vote for Joe Biden. Joe Biden is good. Like US geopolitical allies, like the fascist government of India, that foreign policy against China is fucking fantastic. And if you're against it, you're a colonizer. You have a colonial mentality. That's exactly what Modi's government themselves say, by the way. They like to use the colonizer mentality phrase a lot. It's very easy to see how he's explicitly non-revolutionary, just like trying to channel potential leftist energy to centrism, to establishment politics, is very much worthwhile. If you were someone in the FBI and you wanted an asset to do something that was more complicated than just outright fucking obvious plant shit, like just straight up being a conservative or something, that's what you would do. Absolutely. Do you think they're stupid? Do you think they don't know that they need to have some level of plausible deniability? Yeah, obviously they do. How dumb are you?
thing. Like
what? What? He's literally just a Krug. He grunts.
Can anyone even begin to like wrap their? Can anyone explain to me or the audience what the fuck is even happening? Like,
he's a Krug. He's the greatest Krug of all time. He's the best Krug I've ever seen. Holy shit, he's above Demon Mama. At least Demon Mama like tries to say something and fails. He doesn't even try.
A better asset to the FBI or the CIA or whoever than your fake version of Beau from the internet being a Fed would be.
What the fuck is he talking about, man? Anyway, let's get to the point where we get to the documents. Now, remember what I said earlier regarding his initial argument, which was Beau was not involved in the human trafficking, forced labor side of the operation. All that he did was the visas. Well, I already proved that to be wrong with the witness testimony that I cited, which he ignored. He doesn't check the source, obviously, of course. Watch how this argument evolves once we get to the documentary evidence that shows that Beau was not only crucially important to the operation, but that he openly admitted to being crucially important to the operation. Let's do it. How his argument magically shifts. Housing and transportation and coordinating with foreign governments, acting as company. So this is the Beau wrote on his own resume about how important he was to the operation.
That's okay. You know what? We accept a good pun on the channel, and I appreciate the...
I don't need to do any puns about this guy. I don't need to do any Photoshop. I just need to look at a picture of him. I think there is a reason why people like this are very much involved in defending human trafficking. And I think you can just kind of look at them and you already know. Especially human trafficking of hundreds upon hundreds of women. We already know.
The nonsense of that. Thank you.
Admitted into his trial, where they found his resume, where he wrote on his resume, currently directing daily operations of multinational labor. Now watch the cognitive dissonance here. Watch the cognitive dissonance. His initial claim was he was not involved in the forced labor human trafficking side of the operation. All that he was doing was helping refugees cross the border. What happens now? Responsible for the overseas recruitment of temporary workers, ensuring their arrival to the work locations, arranging housing and transportation, and coordinating with foreign governments, acting as company liaison to US government, responsible for multi-million-dollar budget.
This is Mike from PA. This is true, yeah.
What the fuck? Dude, he just ignores it. He just completely ignored it and brought up like a random video of Mike from PA. Dude, really?
That still makes my skin crawl, man. That's still the
Looking at you makes my skin crawl.
Jesus. Oh. Oof. Oh no. Oof. Anyway.
So clearly there, Beau states his importance to the operation. It's really funny this because his defense was that he was nothing more than a glorified gopher for the companies. Yet in his resume, he said that he was basically like the guy running the whole show. So which was it? This clearly didn't go very well for him at trial. There is also on the record in the case...
He just ignored it.
Evidence.
He literally doesn't even comment on it. Like, his strategy is to just let me outline him admitting that he was the leader of the operation and just ignore it. Is that really it? Just like listen to me say it, bring up Mike to divert from attention, and just gloss over it.
That Beau signed a sworn
Nothing
statement
to say about it.
where he also outright said, a sworn statement being like a legal declaration under the threat of perjury to the US government about like what you do in your job, in this case, is what he was talking about. And he basically said the same thing as what he said in his resume. February 17th, 2006. King signed a sworn statement attesting to the Diplomatic Security Service of the United States Department of State. They had been the general manager of Eurohouse for approximately 1 year. The general manager, okay, pretty fucking important. King stated that his responsibilities were to maintain all office records, ensure that the US visa petitions and labor documents are filed, and ensure that the contracts for the Foreign Service nationals are completed. The Foreign Service nationals sign employment contracts and they provided transportation and housing while employed at Eurohouse. I also manage the Foreign Service employees in day-to-day operations. I ensure that our customers are satisfied with the service that we provide. So the dude signed a sworn statement to the US government, stating in no uncertain terms his crucial importance to the day-to-day functioning of these operations.
Okay, which could easily have been a part of a plea deal or whatever. But yeah, okay, whatever.
Are you fucking joking? Do you know what a sworn statement is? It's a statement under the threat of perjury. In this case, which he filed on the 7th of February 2006. He was indicted a year and a half later. So what you're saying is, before he was even being investigated, before he was even indicted, he signed a plea deal. He signed a plea deal and for some reason signed a sworn statement. Like, that's literally not a thing. What this was Justin Eric King signing a sworn statement literally a year and a half before he was even indicted to the Diplomatic Security Service of the United States Department of State in order to justify his competency to be making visa requests on behalf of his human trafficking company. Completely fucking insane that this guy's defense is it could be a part of a plea deal. So it was a part of a plea deal more than a year before the case had even started, more than a year before he was even indicted. Does he have a time machine? You can see this on the screen. February 17th, 2006. Like, he's just making it up as he goes along, isn't he? That's your defense. Like, his initial defense was he wasn't a part of the forced labor side of the operation. He had no idea about that. He just thought that he was bringing little refugees across the border, helping him out. Now, in his own resume, he states that he was the, crucially important to the operation, pretty much the general leader of it in his region. And in a sworn statement to the US government, he straight up states the exact same again. He ignored the resume, just glossed over it entirely, didn't even respond to it. And to the sworn statement, he comes up with a completely impossible hypothesis to say that it was just him lying completely as part of a plea deal a year and a half before he was even indicted, before he was even under investigation. How do these people think that they're intelligent? It's just defending someone who did something that's indefensible with whatever random shit comes to mind without even checking if the shit they make up is even remotely plausible or even possible. In this case, it obviously isn't. Pretty fucking important. King stated that his responsibilities were to maintain all office records, ensure that the US visa petitions and labor documents are filed, and ensure that the contracts for the Foreign Service nationals are completed. The Foreign Service nationals sign employment contracts and they provided transportation and housing while employed at Eurohouse. I also manage the Foreign Service employees in day-to-day operations. I ensure that our customers are satisfied with the service that we provide. So the dude signed a sworn... By the way, that is completely in line with what we saw from the witness testimony. Again, there's this thing called compounding evidence, corroboration. I probably need to explain it to him because he doesn't seem to understand what these concepts are. But when a witness, for example, says, "Oh, I interacted with this guy intimately in my day-to-day work. He would organize the work for me. He would hand me my pay slips. He would organize my visas." Stuff like that. And then you have a resume and a sworn statement from the same guy saying, yeah, he did pretty much exactly that. That's called corroboration. It's multiple forms of different corroborating evidence proving something to be true. In this case, Justin Eric King's crucial importance in the day-to-day operations of this human trafficking operation, the forced labor side of it, which he obviously fucking knew about and in fact managed. The levels of compounding evidence is fucking massive. Absolutely massive. And there's more.
Hang on, doesn't this say Berman signed a sworn statement?
He's so fucking dumb, he can't even pay attention to what's being shown on this screen. We scrolled down to like the second half of it that was on the next page, and it's like, why? This is a different sworn statement signed by Berman.
And isn't he king? Is he reading from the wrong part of the fucking thing, or have I gone mental?
This is my lawyer, dog. I'm fucking going to jail.
Different part of it? Oh yeah, kings. Oh, okay, so that's... Oh, okay, they've mixed it up. Right, whatever.
So the Foreign Service employees in day-to-day operations, I ensure that our customers are satisfied with the service that we provide. So the dude signed a sworn statement to the US...
Yeah, he's dredging shit up from fucking from like 2 years ago. All this drama came out. Like,
it's drama. Human trafficking and slavery is not drama. That's the only response to that. Human trafficking and slavery is not drama. There's nothing else I need to say to that. Human trafficking and slavery is not fucking drama. Imagine saying the Andrew Tate shit is just a drama. By the way, these people like they understand that human trafficking is bad when Andrew Tate does it, but when this guy also does human trafficking in the style of the fucking Gulf monarchies, apparently it's okay. It's okay because he makes YouTube videos that they like. Really bad YouTube videos, by the way. Beau of the Fifth Column YouTube videos is just a guy firing from the hip in a garage, saying whatever comes to mind. There's no substance to them whatsoever. Said in no uncertain terms, his crucial importance to the day-to-day functioning of these operations, that he was the one organizing. Yeah, I mean, he treats like the literally human trafficking and forced labor of hundreds upon hundreds of vulnerable young Eastern European women. He treats that like as if we're talking about gossip in a fucking like celebrity gossip magazine. It's unbelievable. In labor contracts, that he was basically crucially important to the operation, that he was the one who was also organizing their documents, which later were found to be forged. Not so much forged as in lied about, like, you know, people were told that they would be working at one hotel, and once they arrived, they found they were working for his contracting company instead. There was also one thing where it was about him, like, him and his associates went to hotels and solicited them to hire his workers.
This is my favorite
And they
part.
falsely purported they had a legal workforce that could be provided to them. And there's like 5 other very similar...
yeah, that's... I mean, regardless of what one thinks of Beau's involvement in all of this, that bit of it is like the most uncontroversial.
Do you see? You see, regardless of what one thinks, so he's realizing how bad the evidence is now, and he's trying to divert to a different defense.
Bit imaginable. Yeah, a business was soliciting for business from potential clients.
What was the business? It was a forced labor business, a human trafficking and forced labor business. You're kind of leaving that part out, aren't you? Soliciting clients to send forced laborers to work for your profit. Kind of leaving that part out, aren't you? I also want to draw attention to his initial defense, which was according to him, that there is no evidence that Beau was involved in this side of the operation. We played it earlier. Let's play it again.
When you keep saying we, I don't think there's any evidence to suggest that he was involved in the back end of this.
Initially, his defense was, well, there's no evidence that he was involved in the forced labor, human trafficking, etc. side of the operation. He just made the visas. He was just trying to help people get into the United States for a new life. And then, after literally tons of evidence that he was literally the general manager of the operation, very intimately involved in the forced labor side of things. He would literally go to hotels in person and try to solicit clients for his forced laborers to be rented out to. And his defense evolved completely. And at no point is the contradiction with his initial defense ever even remotely dealt with. Because he's not here to examine the evidence. He's not here to form a rational conclusion based on the evidence. He is here to defend the YouTuber at any cost. So he can be very dynamic. He can just change shit up to whatever comes to mind, even if it directly contradicts what he was just saying an hour ago. And even if it requires him to just fucking leave out the crucially important fact that the people who he was offering as labor to these hotels, they were forced laborers. They were vulnerable young women, 19 to 23, hundreds upon hundreds of them from Bulgaria, who he was offering to these hotels to work for him and his co-conspirators under very, very coercive conditions, being underpaid, not being paid overtime, having their wages garnished for exorbitant debts. That is forced labor. That is Gulf-style forced labor. So you can't just say, oh, of course, he was a member of a business. Of course, he would go around looking for business for his business. What was the business? It was forced labor. It was human trafficked forced labor. An hour ago, you were saying he had no involvement in this side of the operation. For this argument to work, we would need to buy a very long list of premises. So we would need to believe that he was forging the visas, that he was the regional manager of this operation, that he was the one who was giving victims their pay slips. He was the one who was garnishing their wages for exorbitant debts for visa renewals. He was the one who was, on occasion, even driving them to and from the transportation. He was the one who was organizing the transportation, as the victim testimony also showed. He was the one who would organize their work, where they were going to work. He was the one who would go to the hotels themselves and try to get work for the forced laborers. You know, he was the regional manager. He was a general manager, in his words as well, in multiple different self-written sources about his importance to the operation. He was all of these things, yet somehow he had no idea that it was a forced labor operation. Somehow. This is like that Hitler didn't know about the Holocaust argument. It's the exact same style of argument. It's the exact same style of argument that's used in like the dumbest style of Holocaust denial, like David Irving style Holocaust denial, where sure, the Holocaust happened, but Hitler didn't know about it. Somehow the Fuhrer, the founder of the Nazi ideology, didn't know about the Holocaust. Somehow, Justin Eric King, the general manager of the Florida operation of Eurohouse, who was intimately involved in the day-to-day management of the operation, who bragged about his importance to the operation, who would go to the hotels to organize clients to whom the forced laborers could be rented out. He didn't actually know that the forced laborers were forced laborers. He didn't know that there was human trafficking going on. He's innocent. That is insane. This is genuinely like the biggest Krug so far. He's beaten Demon Mama. They will do anything to defend human traffickers, to defend people who have done horrible shit without even admitting what they've done, without making amends with their victims. They will defend them no matter what, just because they like them. No principles whatsoever. They will frame human trafficking and forced labor as just drama. Let's continue. Let's continue to have our brains destroyed.
If it is like the most uncontroversial bit imaginable. Yeah, a business was soliciting for business from potential clients. Yeah, woo.
I feel
Massive
embarrassed for
scoop.
him.
He's got the real scoop here. Cleaning company goes to potential clients.
No, it's just a normal everyday cleaning company. The human trafficking element, which is what it's all about, is just suddenly removed. Cleaning company with human trafficked labor. Human trafficked forced labor. Yes.
Hire our cleaning company. Brilliant. I mean,
unbelievable.
Honestly, Sherlock Holmes is rolling in his grave that he couldn't be as brilliant as Bad Empanada.
Oh my god, he is so dumb.
This kind of sleuthing is just off the
I can see why he gets 10 viewers now. Instances of him organizing work for the human trafficked forced laborers who worked for his contracting company that he said in his own words he was the general manager of. So this is a supposedly leftist reaction to this, I guess. A supposedly leftist reaction to this, to someone like talking about this, exposing this, is to threaten the person.
Also,
simply
Mike from PA was never exposing this because he gives a fuck about any of this, because Mike from PA is a grifter, okay?
It's like, so it doesn't matter what his intentions were. It doesn't matter if he's a grifter or not. What matters is the evidence. If your only response to someone presenting a ton of evidence that someone is a human trafficking slaver is, I don't care what you have to say about this because you're a grifter, then you're pretty much just admitting that you can't defend the evidence. That you know that the evidence proves what you want to believe wrong. It's really that simple. It doesn't fucking matter whatever two-bit excuse you come up with to defend Beau the human trafficker, because the evidence is still there. Doesn't fucking matter. And again, as I said, you don't get clout by attacking massive fucking personalities with a fucking army of idiots who will defend anything they do. That's not how you get clout. You get clout by sucking up to those people. So again, just bullshit.
Mike from PA was doing this because they had a slight disagreement about voting for Joe Biden in the general election.
Holy shit. He literally cannot deal with the
That's
evidence. He provided clear and concise evidence from public documents with forced disappearance. Normal, everyday sort of reaction here from someone who definitely is not covering for human trafficker.
If you don't know somebody's a fucking, if you can't tell that somebody's a fucking operator, then you're not in a position to be running your mouth about anybody to begin with. And if you actually can
I gotta give Funko Pop Jack at least a little bit of credit, because he had the good sense not to try and respond to me based on the evidence. He had the good sense not to show his audience the clear evidence that I presented that completely destroys these people's narrative regarding what Beau did. This guy, however, did not have that sense. And suddenly, Beau, the fifth column, goes from just being a an innocent helper of refugees, just a normal everyday guy trying to run a cleaning business. The defenses evolve like every 5 minutes. They have to change because the evidence contradicts what he said 5 minutes ago. It's great.
Operator, then you should shut your fucking mouth because you know what goddamn operators do. Goddamn operators do. That somebody is an operator, then you should shut your fucking mouth because you know what goddamn operators
he thinks
do.
He's so fucking badass. Like, dude, do you think you're like a fucking cool, epic badass in front of your fucking Boba Fett and like random fandom products, Deadpool mask? Dude,
What the fuck? What is wrong with you? He always picks up on like the dumbest shit.
this guy's entire fucking, like, all that he's been doing is ignoring my arguments while literally just, oh, he's Stalin. 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 What the fuck?
Like, the thing that James is saying here is dumb. I'm just going to put that straight out there. I thought it was dumb at the time. I said it was dumb at the time. He then went on with the Mike from PA thing, and that was very funny and cool and based.
This guy he's like 45 years old. I would be embarrassed to talk like this, man. Come on. You're not 18.
But this bit was like
You're not a
fucking
TikToker.
stupid. When he was like, oh, we can make people disappear. Like, or not we can make, but he said, he was basically insinuating that Beau could. And that was dumb. He shouldn't have said that. He went over the top. You get a rush of blood to the fucking head, right?
You get a rush of blood to the fucking head wanting to defend human trafficking. Now let's get to the bit where Beau outright lies about smuggling refugees, which by this point, he has already seen more than enough evidence to know that that's bullshit. So let's look at that. 2015, so this is like 4 or 5 years after he got out, and he twists that into a story of him helping refugees. That's not an exaggeration, by the way. Listen.
On there with that whole incident there with getting your door kicked in, was that because of something the company you were working for had done, or was that something that you were under investigation for? Can you detail that a little bit more?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a really good reason, by the way, to... I should respond. Thinking Sabergate, it's really interesting that you mentioned that he's gone to a part of South America where there are very few Jewish people, because it turns out he wants to kill all... Virtually...
What? Argentina has I'm pretty sure Argentina has the biggest Jewish community in the world outside of New York and Israel. I literally live in the center of Haredi Judaism in Argentina. I live in the fucking Haredi Jewish neighborhood. Like in my fucking apartment building, there's 5 fucking Haredi families. What the fuck is this moron talking about? And by the way, a lot of them are anti-Zionists. I have the pleasure of being able to report that to you. It's mostly the secular ones who are Zionists. Argentina has 200,000 Jewish people and 400,000 who would be eligible to be Jews. I don't know what criteria that is. Probably like blood right or whatever. So what the fuck is this dipshit talking about? He has no idea what he's talking about. Like average Anglo world knowledge right here. Like I literally cannot walk a block without like interacting with Jewish people. So what the fuck are you talking about? You dumb fucking moron. And it's funny how they bring this up as well. This is like all that they can do to defend the guy is to be like, the person saying it, I don't like them. Because they know the evidence is far too fucking bad to ever be defended.
all Jewish people in the world, it would appear. He has said that all Israelis get the wall, and anyone who's ever shown any support for Israel is a colonizer who gets the wall.
So this guy, I guess, just supports Israel. So he's making up bullshit to defend Israel, basically. He's okay with people defending Israel. He's okay with people who are for genocide. He's okay with the modern day Nazis. Very interesting.
So he wants to kill seemingly more Jews than the Nazis did.
This is very, 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 very common Zionist propaganda tactic, by the way. You reframe opposition to Israel and the actions of genocidal Israelis to just Jews. They're just normal, everyday Jews. They're not doing anything wrong. They're not Israelis. It's not that they're doing settler colonial genocide. No, no, no. The only reason that you could ever have to take
Feels like
exception
he supports the Holocaust.
to Israel is because Israel happens to be an ethno-state that claims to be representative of Jews. That's the only possible reason. Now, surely, if Israel, for example, had been like an ethno-state of like fucking Afrikaners. Imagine if the Dutch had gone to colonize Israel instead of Jews. And instead of Jews, we had those people doing the exact same thing that the Israelis do today. Now, would I still be against that? Would everyone else who is against Israel, who isn't just like a random Richard Spencer type? No, Richard Spencer actually loves Israel. I can't even think of like a right-winger who's anti-Israel. David Duke, I guess? I'm pretty sure they wouldn't oppose it anymore. However, do you think we wouldn't oppose it? Do you think Palestinians wouldn't oppose it? Because that's what it is. It's not based on who's doing the settler colonial genocide. It's based on the settler colonial genocide. And all these people can do is to try and reframe it to an ethnic thing, which is especially dishonest because Israel itself and Zionism itself is what made it an ethnic thing. No one else did. Wait, David Duke does like Israel? I can't even think of like a like white nationalist figure who doesn't like Israel anymore, because for them it's like a model of an ethno-state that they hope to replicate. Even Tucker Carlson defended Israel on that basis. But yeah, this is pure Zionist propaganda tactics here, and being brought up just to completely off topic too, to divert attention away from a fucking human trafficker. We've just gone over the evidence of his human trafficking, and this guy just completely glossed over it, ignored it, came up with obviously bullshit, invalid arguments to ignore it. And this is the best he's got. Literally like the definition of ad hominem. Avoid the evidence, avoid the argument being made based on overwhelming evidence that you clearly just saw, and just like say, Israel? Me love Israel? He no like Israel? Actual caveman.
Which is interesting. That's an interesting take for a supposed leftist. By which I mean he's not really a leftist at all. He's just a genocidal fascist who likes to...
If you want to talk about fascism, trying to frame opposition to Israeli settler colonialism and the genocidal horrific actions of Israel and Israelis, obviously, yes, because a state is not some abstract entity. It relies on people who are incentivized to help it, because the state obviously exists by and for Israelis, obviously. So to frame being against the fascist settler colonial genocide being carried out by Israel against Palestinians as we speak right now, I'm literally speaking during a pogrom right now, as genocide, that's literally Netanyahu talking point. Straight up, Benjamin Netanyahu says the exact same shit. This is disgusting. You're already defending human trafficking, and now you're defending Israeli colonialism. Unbelievable.
Is
he ever going to actually
his
get
words
to the topic, though? Like, this is insane. Is he going to play it?
It's crazy, I know.
Central Asia, wherever. We started working in Uzbekistan.
A country that brought refugees over from Uzbekistan. That can only work if you don't know anything about Uzbekistan.
This much is my personal theory.
It's like saying, we were helping people from Kazakhstan because you just heard about it from fucking Borat and relying on the audience to not know what the fuck you're talking about.
Uzbekistan was a U.S. ally at the time. They were also really, really, really evil to Jewish people. We were getting them out, and
he claimed that he was helping Jewish refugees to escape Uzbekistan, which is apparently like a hotbed of anti-Semitism at this time, when what he was doing was bringing in young Eastern European women aged 19 to 23, primarily from Bulgaria, to work for him and his contracting company from 6 months to a year after being lured there on false pretenses in order to be able to pay them below minimum wage and contract them out to a bunch of hotels. More details as well in this document. The government presented witnesses from Destin West, which was one of the hotels, who claimed that Destin West paid Justin King approximately $2,000 for the labor contracts that he organized with them. And this might be untrue, but his co-conspirators said that they were not aware of this contract. So it
might be untrue, but I'm going to repeat it anyway. Cool.
No, the part that might be untrue, as I clearly stated, as I signaled in very clear English, is that his co-conspirators say they didn't know about it. Because if they did know about it, it would mean that it was being split 4 ways. So regardless of if it was being split or not, it would mean that Justin King was profiting from organizing these contracts for the forced laborers. And the evidence for this is not contestable. This is documentary evidence, a contract that was found during a federal raid on his house that was then accepted by the judge and the clerks of the court to be entered into evidence during the case. That's what's being cited here. So it's not that it might not be true. It is true. It happened. The contract was there, signed by Justin King, and none of his co-conspirators. And his co-conspirators said they didn't know about it. Even if they did know about it, even if this money was being split between all of them, it still means that they were profiting off organizing the forced labor contracts right fucking there. Right there, the man was profiting from forced labor and human trafficking. It is true. That means that Justin King was so important to the operation that he was independently organizing contracts himself that his co-conspirators did not know about, and he was profiting from them. Also, in another case, a contract that was found during a federal search warrant execution on his house recovered a contract agreement between LGM Inc. and Eurohouse Holding Corp., signed by a signature appearing to be that of King and someone else named Stephen Murphy. The contract is an agreement in which they agreed to pay a fee of 1 hour $1 per hour of work from Eurohouse. And all of his co-conspirators deny that they knew of this agreement. So now his co-conspirators could just be lying here, but either way, you can clearly see they were getting paid on top of the pay of the people who they were renting out, of the basically slaves who they were renting out. They were getting paid for the work that they did. $1 per hour of work that they did. And in one case, as I showed in the previous, is he going to plan to like refute this? What's his master fucking rebuttal here? I can't fucking wait. I'm fucking like at the edge of my seat here. I cannot fucking wait to see what he says to this one. This video, one of them was working 80 hours a week with no overtime because King and his co-conspirators were cutting her paychecks in two in order to avoid paying her overtime. You know, they were saying that the paycheck was from 2 different weeks when it wasn't. So she would work 80 hours a week and then they would cut them in two and say that she was working 40 in 1 week and 40 in the next, so they could not pay her overtime. Now, it could be that his co-conspirators did know about this and they were in on it as well. Let's say that. Let's say it was actually $1 split between 4 of them. Then that would have been 25 cents each per hour of work worked by the forced laborers. They're still profiting off the forced labor, off the top of it. On top of the fact that King was getting paid thousands of dollars for his the middlemaning that he was doing between them. You notice how he doesn't have any response to this. He's like desperately sitting there, desperately trying to think something up. He's very dumb, but at this point, he's clearly realized that he has backed himself into a corner that he doesn't know how to get out of. So I can't wait to see how he tries to get out of it. The companies and his contracting firm. So this shit is totally fucked.
Or that they didn't know about it because they weren't doing that.
What? He didn't know about it? This is literally the fucking Hitler didn't know about the Holocaust argument. Oh my god.
It could also be that. Now
he didn't know about it. He didn't know about it. He signed the contract. It was found in his house. He didn't know about it.
No, and I mean, in essence, I don't care on the basis that it's from years ago anyway. And
you see how his argument has evolved. You see how it's evolved. It goes from 1, he was just a poor little boy smuggling vulnerable refugees. 2, okay. So clearly he was involved with the forced labor, with the labor contracting side of the operation. Clearly he was the general manager, the leader of it all. But he didn't know about the forced labor somehow. And now it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe he did. But it was so long ago, man. I don't care about it. You see how the argument evolves over time. They can never admit that they were wrong. They have to defend the streamer at all costs. This is how it is. 0 principles. Just defending the YouTuber.
Regardless, he served his time and I think has made...
He served his time? 3 years. Does 3 years for enslaving hundreds upon hundreds of vulnerable young Eastern European women seem like serving your time to you, paying $0 in restitution to them, never even admitting what you did? Holy fuck.
Something of amends?
How has he made amends?
You know.
Do you have any evidence that he's made amends? He kept millions of dollars worth of assets, at least $1 million worth of assets that he made from the forced labor. Since then, he makes millions upon millions of dollars every year off his YouTube channel. Do you have any evidence that he has ever admitted what he's done, apologized to the people who he enslaved, and given them any sort of restitution, what you call restorative justice? Because I can't find any. I actually showed you earlier evidence that he's never given them even a cent. He paid $0 in restitution as a result of the trial. So he hasn't made amends. Making YouTube videos is not making amends. That's not what making amends is. Having a YouTube channel where you make millions of dollars off ad revenue, off sponsorships, off your Patreon, etc., that's not making amends, okay? Making amends would be giving a little bit of his millions upon millions of dollars in income, of the millions of dollars that he made off enslaving these people, back to the people who he enslaved. It would be admitting what he did to them, apologizing to them for it, and fucking restituting them for it. Restoring them. Restorative justice. That's what it is. He's done nothing of that. His victims have gotten nothing for what he did to them. He's not even admitted what he did to them. So fuck off with this shit. Jesus, man.
Like, you're just dragging this up because you're a muckraker. That's all you're doing.
A muckraker is literally a positive term. The muckrakers were some of like the best journalists in history. What the fuck are you talking about? You're just a muckraker. So like a muckraker was like someone who would like go to like factories in like the 19th century USA and expose like the most horrid labor conditions imaginable. For you, that's like an insult. For me, you just complimented me. Thank you. Imagine you see all this shit, you see all this evidence against him, this overwhelming evidence officially entered into the record during the trial. And this shit...
I love this. Officially entered into the record. In what other case would a leftist like Bad Empanada ever just believe some shit that the US government said about something?
What? Does he think that documentary evidence entered into the record by a judge and court clerks during a trial is what the government says? The government forged, the government planted all these documents, they planted the witnesses. Is that his argument? All of the evidence is just, like, he can just discount it all because it's what the government says? Let me explain to you. Again, I already explained this earlier. Documentary evidence into the record of a trial means that there's literally a document. And as we just saw during the thing that we just fucking read, that he just fucking saw me reading, they're not talking about, oh, I am the government and I say this is what happened. They're talking about, here is a contract from his house. It says this on it. He signed it here. This is what it was for. Here is his resume. It was entered into evidence. Here is a sworn statement. We also entered this into evidence. A document entered into evidence during a trial is just evidence. It's documentary evidence. It's not the government's narrative. It's not something the government made up. What the holy fuck are you talking about? I guess, if you like someone, you can just arbitrarily claim that all of the evidence was planted by the government to get them out of it, even though that person never even argued that themselves, has never even said anything like that. Maybe you'll give him the idea to say that now. If that was true, why didn't he argue that during the case? There's literally no indication of that even being worth suspecting. No one, contested the veracity of the documentary evidence. No one. He just fucking making it up as he goes along, but his brain's not good enough to do it well.
Seriously, when would, the US government said it, therefore it must be true, ever be accepted in a leftist circle?
Oh my god. None of this is based off what the US government said. I cannot fucking believe how dumb this guy is.
Except when it's very convenient for him because he gets to smear a political opponent with it. Fuck
Holy
you.
Fuck. This is why you have 10 viewers after 5 years of streaming, dude. You're just fucking impossibly stupid. Where he claims that he was smuggling refugees.
They don't even fucking... They're not okay when it's they show indisputable fucking proof of Assad using gas against his own people. They'll turn around and say,
what the fuck does that have to do with anything? When have I ever said anything like that? What the fuck are you talking about?
Can't trust the CIA because the CIA is bad because America bad.
Does he think that the CIA... I don't even know. I don't think the CIA ever presented evidence of a gas attack by Assad or something. But yeah, if the CIA says something, you can't trust that. Okay? Documentary evidence entered into the record of a court is not the CIA possibly making something up. It's not even remotely the same thing.
But as soon as it's convenient for them, America, good.
I think contracts signed by Justin Eric King proving that he was profiting off forced labor are good. I think that his own resume saying that he was the general manager is good. His own sworn statement saying that he was the general manager is good. Witness testimony corroborating all of that is good. I think, that's a pretty good level of evidence that he was a human trafficker and that he made people labor for his own profit. None of this is because the government says so. It's because there's documentary evidence that was entered into the record of a court case, and documentary evidence entered the record of a court case means that it was put on the record, means it's in the court logs, and that's how we know about it. That's how we get the details of it. The prosecution are not allowed to just cite evidence and make shit up. That's not how this works. They don't just say, we decided offhandedly that there was a contract, we're not going to show it to the court, but there was a contract that he signed where he was making $2,000. No, they are saying that because a document was found during a federal search warrant execution on his house. That was that document. And they are presenting it in the court as evidence. That's how this fucking works, dude. You're 58 years old? You don't know this? What's going on? This again, because this shit is incredibly abominable. This is like claiming that you are harboring Jewish refugees during the Holocaust or something, like saving them, and then it comes out later.
Well, no, it's not. It's not really like that, is it? That's not exactly the thing he was saying there at all.
You were actually keeping them in your basement and enslaving them to make a profit off them. It's on that level of insane lying. Listen.
What went on there with that whole incident there with getting your door kicked in? Was that because of something the company you were working for had done? Or, was that something that you were under investigation for? Can you detail that a little bit more?
Well, basically, I worked for a company that did refugee recovery. We got refugees out of bad countries, whether it be...
A company that did refugee recovery. So he's not just lying about his role, right? That's very, 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 very telling. He said the company was dedicated to refugee recovery. He's not just minimizing his role, his motivation here. He's lying about what the entire operation did and what it was for. That's even worse than what I remember.
It's even worse than what I remember. Dude, he's saying that he worked at that end of it?
he just literally saw like an hour and a half, well, it took him an hour and a half to go over the evidence because he's pretty slow, like of evidence proving all of this wrong. And his response is just to say, well, he said that he was helping refugees, so he must have helped refugees. Okay, that's enough of that. That's enough of the dumbest guy imaginable. I just wanted to address that because it's such an amazing opportunity for me to just show how these people making shit up operate. You know, just completely fucking wreck their narrative. What they do is they just make shit up as they go along, whatever they feels convenient to them in the moment, because what they're motivated by is not looking at the evidence. What they're motivated by is making shit up to apologize for the YouTuber that they like, or who in some cases, the YouTuber who they want to suck up to get some of their clout. That's all that it is. So yeah, I mean, I invited him onto the stream so that we could do this in person. That would have been fucking hilarious, but he is a fucking little coward. He's dumb, but he's not that dumb to come on stream and actually try to defend the evidence. Anyway, yeah, that was embarrassing. Holy shit. Imagine being that guy.